All right, Elle, here's the thing. Maybe we should stop holding people on the internet accountable for the stuff they say they're going to do if their team wins or loses, because we've both seen the picture and you can't unsee it.
You're talking about the dude that stuck a 5-layer burrito up his ass?
That's the one.
Welcome to the Elle Duncan Show with Gary Streisky. I am feeling a bit queasy. I mean, respect to the Kansas State fan who followed through in a way that the Florida State fan did not. For those of you that don't know, for the last couple of weeks, we talked about these dudes who make these wagers on Twitter. You know, they say these ridiculous things. I swear to God, if Florida State loses again, I'm going to eat a cup of dog shit. Right? Florida State loses, the dude disappears, he's become a meme. So then this Kansas State fan ups the ante, and he's like, if Kansas State loses, I'm going to shove a 5-layer beef burrito up my butt. And the internet was like, don't you be like Florida State, man. Don't you be Florida, man. You better do it. Fully expecting that this dude would not be able to do it. I mean, Gary, I thought you brought up a really cogent point. It structurally doesn't seem possible to stick that up there. But alas, this man did it. He teased that he would do it on Saturday night. He teased it with a picture of a burrito on a bed. And our producer is claiming that this is a man of honor.
I don't know. I don't
know. I feel like there's more judgment that you actually did it than there is you just tucking tail and disappearing.
Yeah. Elle, let's put ourselves in the shoes of Taco Bell representation. Is this good for the brand? Is this bad for the brand? Is this a cease and desist? Is this a, hey, it kind of looks the same way going in as it does coming out type situation? What are we doing here if you're Taco Bell?
I'm looking at the picture, and fortunately, our producers.
You're looking at the picture?
Well, our producers blurred it, and it's still gross. You just can sort of vaguely see some white cakes with something sticking out of it, and it's sort of blurred, but it's still really gross. And I feel like being the guy that made a bold statement that you never lived up to is better than being the guy that shoved a burrito up your butt. Like, you're the burrito up the butt guy, forever.
It's your claim to fame. I don't know if he has kids, but when he does have kids, that's, hey, is this your dad? This is your dad? Yeah. You ain't living that one down.
You think maybe he can get like an NIL deal with Taco Bell or?
And Taco Bell might give him money to literally never associate himself with their products ever again. Just like we're going to cut you a check. Do not ever mention our names in your mouth or in your booty, your booty cheeks.
What does that commercial look like, Gary? He's like, when I'm going to stick a burrito up my butt, I only want the best, the beefiest, the meatiest, and the cheesiest. I go to
oh my God.
I go to Taco Bell.
You have some pretty good points. It's a good bang for your buck. Ooh, bang for your buck's probably not the best. Listen, Elle, I feel weird having this conversation because I'm currently in a conference room at work.
Yeah.
So I feel like we should deviate from this conversation into one that has something to do at least a little bit with sports. Because I feel like they're listening. I'm in the building. You know which building it is, building 4. I'm in the basement, but the bosses work right above us. And I feel like I'm even talking too loud. And they might be like, hey, go find out who's talking about putting burritos in booty holes.
Well, let's be clear. You're in the basement of building 4. They're on the 4th floor with all the windows. They don't hear you at all. But I get it. You want to dive into a more meatier subject.
Oh, my God. Jesus, dude.
All right, so now that Caitlin Clark's offseason is over, she said she's not going to play. Didn't expect she was going to play overseas, but she's not going to play in the 3-on-3 league, the unrivaled league that Stewie started. And she said she's probably going to do some golfing, which apparently she's really good at because the socials proved that. I mean, she just seems like one of those people that's like freakishly good at everything. She's got brothers. Yeah. They all hooped and played sports and did all of those things. And so we wanted to just throw out some hobbies that she could take up when, inevitably it gets real, real cold in Indiana or Iowa.
They got about 1 month of good golf weather. All right. Cause we experience it similarly here in New England, Elle. So she's a busy woman. All right. She's been go since the beginning of the calendar year 2023. This is a hobby. Napping. Napping is a hobby. All right, everybody but brags about, oh man, I pulled an all-nighter. Like, when's the last time you had to pull an all-dayer? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you just need to close your eyes 15, 20 minutes. What's that called? That's called a nap. And I think Caitlin Clark needs to familiarize herself with that hobby.
Yeah, but I think there's this thing that you do when you're like 22 and you're a professional athlete, or just 22 in general, and you're like, I don't want naps. Naps are for babies. Ultimately, then you have kids and you get old and you just like fantasize about naps. But I think that like that's for old washed people like us. Like 22-year-olds don't really like to nap. That's not a thing that they did. You weren't napping when you were 22. You were sleeping. You
Oh,
were staying up all night
bullshit.
playing Fortnite or whatever it was that was popular when you were 22. And then you were getting up at noon. So there's no need to nap when you get up at noon. I want for her hobby to be to do whatever she wants. Sleep in. Sleeping in. Start there. She doesn't need a nap. She just needs to sleep in. How about that?
Elle, I appreciate that you think I was 22 when Fortnite was hot 6 years ago. Because when I was 22, 15 years ago, I don't think the internet was quite running on all cylinders. What about skeet shooting?
What?
I'm sure that's big in the Midwest. It'll keep her hand-eye coordination on point, and you can do that indoors. Have you ever been skeet shooting? You're from Georgia,
no.
of course.
I have been skeet shooting outdoors.
Tell me that ain't
Definitely not
fun. Tell me that
indoors.
ain't fun. Tell me that ain't fun.
No, skeet shooting is super fun.
See? She should take up skeet shooting.
I mean, but we're saying that she can't do outdoor activities for too long. Like she's going to skeet shoot in the snow.
No, you can do it indoors.
Yeah.
She got indoor gun money range.
I want her to do like, I also don't know that she wants to like, lean into shooting guns all the time. That feels a little bit too on par with some of those people that pretend to be fans of hers, but are actually just there to be bad faith characters. It feels a little too on the nose with him, I think. I want her to do like carnival games. Like I want her to pop up at a Chuck E. Cheese somewhere where there's a bunch of unsuspecting kids, and I want her to just beat them all at Pop-A-Shot. Skee ball. Forget skeet shooting. No. How about skee ball?
Skee ball is nice. Skee ball is also, I take offense to that, Elle, because I've gone skeet shooting. I'm not good. Okay, I've not hit a clay pigeon, but I've certainly tried. It's freaking hard.
Yeah.
But I will see you on the skee ball.
Yeah.
And the Pop-A-Shot, which again I claim that I'm the best Pop-A-Shot shooter in the state of Connecticut. And no one wants to see me. Jackson, who's a producer on this show, I haven't seen him in person in weeks. Ever since I challenged him, he's scared.
Oh, he disappeared.
He's running scared. Elle. Yeah, I ain't seen the man.
Yeah, that's his thing. He's in the group chat saying that he's not scared at all. But we'll see. I want to challenge you and Caitlin Clark to a Pop-A-Shot. She's gonna smoke you. She's gonna absolutely destroy you.
It's false.
You know what Caitlin Clark should do? She should jump on Twitch. I'm sure she plays video games. Like yesterday when we were in between games on the WNBA.
She don't play video games.
Like these young people just know video games. And like I look up and I was like, Drea, what are you doing? She's like, I'm playing Fortnite. She's like brought her Xbox with her or whatever. And she was just like playing Fortnite. And I was like, these girls, they can do it all. They can play. They can be dressy. They can be fashion plates. And they can also beat your ass at Fortnite. Like I want her to start a Twitch and just smoke people. But games that I know, like Smash Brothers or Wii Sports.
So you just want her to fire up the Nintendo 64. You shouldn't have told me about Drea. She's already cool.
She's very cool. She's got a snake.
And now you made her.
Yeah, she plays Fortnite.
Nah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll get some brownie points for Drea because I'm in Fortnite. Elle, I'm in the game.
Oh.
Not a big deal, kind of a big deal.
Isn't it called a skin or something? You've got some skins?
We'll talk about it later. I got some skin in the game. You feel?
Oh. I'll tell Drea to wear you. I'll tell Drea to wear you.
We got a full Texas Chainsaw Massacre situation going on. It's appropriate because it's October.
The WNBA, man. Playoffs continue. We're in the semis. I got to be honest, like, of course, this is a function of only having a handful of teams. There's 12 teams in the league, and 8 of those teams make the postseason. But I feel like the NBA gets it wrong, man. Their playoffs are too long. They're like 3 months long. I mean, the W playoffs, it all counts. We are already in the semis. The finals are right around the corner. We're already down to 4 teams, and the W postseason just started last week. Of course, last week we saw the end of Caitlin Clark's rookie campaign. heck of a run. They lost to the Connecticut Sun. I mean, who have the
Correct.
most playoff experience. They coming into that series had 222 games of playoff experience. Dewana Bonner alone
Correct.
had more playoff experience than everybody on the Fever combined, and they just got outmatched. Definitely could see down the stretch some sort of rookie mistakes and whatnot, but they fought hard, they fought tough. We've had our awards come out. Caitlin Clark, as we expected, gets Rookie of the Year. Shout out to Dejanay Carrington, gets Most Improved Player, although she probably could have
Hmm.
gotten Defensive Player of the Year. That went to Nafisa Collier instead, who comes in second place behind Asia Wilson for MVP. Asia unanimous MVP. Shout out to her. And then we had Cheryl Reeve, the coach of the Minnesota Lynx, get Coach of the Year. So all these awards have come down, and we talk a lot about like revenge, and sometimes I think that athletes manufacture like chip on the shoulder revenge. I do. Like I think
Oh,
sometimes I think it's like, they're all out here like Michael Jordan, like I just need to be mad at someone. Like what storyline can get
yeah.
me pissed? Like I need some kind of motivation. And we talked before the Liberty and Aces game, which by the way, like is the Super Bowl. I mean, this is the finals rematch from last year.
Hmm.
It's the biggest names in the sport. Um, like the two women involved between Brianna Stewart and Asia Wilson have won 5 of the last 7 MVPs. Like this is a juggernaut matchup. And we talked
Hmm.
with Andrea Carter and Shania Gumake on WNBA Countdown, Gary, about like what's more motivating, right? Like, are you more motivated by seeking history, like the Aces, trying to have this elusive three-peat, something only the Houston Comets have done in the inaugural 4 years of the WNBA? Or are you more motivated by revenge? The revenge for the Liberty, watching the Aces down 2 starters celebrate their title on your court, on your logo, and how deflating that was. And even the Liberty, like they played into it. Courtney Vandersloot's like, we have scars from that. Sabrina Ionescu
Hmm.
was like, they were dark weeks after that. Like we were pissed. And so we see game 1 on Sunday. And let me tell you, hell hath no fury like a woman scored. Brianna Stewart
Hmm. She went
was
crazy.
banana. She was going nuts.
Yeah. 80% from the field
Yeah,
in the first quarter or first half. 20 points in the
in the
first
first
half. She
half.
couldn't
Yeah.
she couldn't miss. 6th career game in the playoffs with 30 or more points, which is second most all time in the WNBA. I think to what you're saying, I'm a big revenge guy. I love revenge. You can't take away what the Aces have already done and where they've stamped themselves, but you can always pick at the scab that is the Liberty right now until they win a WNBA title. They've been there, what, 5 or 6 times? They've never lifted the championship trophy. Second place is cool, but like revenge is just delicious. Sabrina Ionescu, she had 21 points. So in that regard, I think it's the Liberty. They're the 1 seed, right? Like they have everything stacked up against them, and they came out in game 1, which is now best of 5s in these semifinals, with everything to lose.
Yeah, and when it comes to best of 5 series in the WNBA in particular, the people that win game 1 go on to win the series 77% of the time. And I got to be
It's
honest, my
crazy.
biggest takeaway from yesterday, because I had sort of still been, when people are asking me who's my championship pick, I a little bit felt like the Aces were like the Chiefs last year, right? Like,
Yeah.
they seem down because they've been so dominant for so many years. They seem the most gettable that they've seen in a long time. They were the 4th seed. We haven't had a champion as a 4th seed. So I thought, like, you know, I still feel stupid, right? Like I picked against the Chiefs last year and then ultimately they won the Super Bowl. And I was like, you big dummy. Because once the postseason starts, they've got the championship pedigree. They know what it takes to win a championship. They've done it back to back years. And on top of that, they have the best player in the world. And so the question was it best player in the world versus best team in the world? And I, I have to be honest, after watching game 1, I'm gonna go back on that a little bit. Maybe I'm gonna eat my words eventually. Maybe the Aces are gonna turn this entire thing around, but I don't see who's stopping the Liberty. If they play the way that they played yesterday. I mean, because they've got this big 3, but also a big 4.
Hmm.
The big 3 being Jonquil Jones, Sabrina Ionescu, and Brianna Stewart. They scored 68 points. Stewie and
Yeah.
Sabrina Sab shot 60% or better from the field. And I thought what Stewie said after the game to Holly Rowe, again, she could have downplayed sort of like last year and how they felt and the, animosity. And she was like, I owed you guys one because I played like in that game 4, that
Hmm.
clinching game for the Aces. She shot 3 of 17 from the field. She largely was kept in check and she felt like she left her team down. So I thought it was really interesting. She brought it up again. Like, we're not the ones manufacturing this sort of revenge storyline. But not only do they have the big 3, 2, by the way, former league MVPs in Jonquil Jones and Stewie, they also have Leonie Fiebisch, the rookie from Germany, who, yes, is a rookie in the W, but has a very seasoned and experienced career playing professionally overseas. And she's been fantastic. The thing is that the Aces just don't have anybody that they can match Stewie up with, right? Like, if you want to try and throw Asia at her, then like you're sort of not able to utilize what she's able to do. Like, they just don't have an answer matchup wise for all of them. They just don't. Like, they don't have a single person that they could. You want to put Kia Stokes out there, but she's an offensive liability. So then you're trading buckets for defense,
Yep.
right? And even yesterday, as a primary defender, Stewie was scoring on everybody. She had open looks, she had contested looks, she was scoring on everyone. And I don't like, the Aces are going to have to get so much more from everyone. Kelsey Plum was fantastic. 24 points. She did a great job. She kept him in it because it was definitely a
Hmm.
game of runs. I mean, it looked like the Liberty were going to blow them out the gym to start. And then the Aces stormed back, right? And then they
Yep.
started to separate a little bit. And then the Aces came back. But Asia Wilson's 21 points to anyone else on the box score, that looks great. Not for her. It wasn't particularly efficient. And on top of that, they didn't get contributions that they need from Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray, the point god, had 1
Hmm.
assist. And it was at the very end of the game that she finally got that 1 assist. She'd never been held assistless as a part of the Aces team. So I don't listen. Do I think they're going to get swept? No, I think the Aces are going to have a counter. I don't know if it's in game 2 on Tuesday in New York or if it's going to ultimately come when they switch the series to Las Vegas. They're not going to go down without a fight. I don't see that at all. But I just don't see how this Liberty team is getting beat, in particular when I watched the Sun and Lynx game 2 as well, which featured 2 of the best defenses in the
Yeah.
WNBA. So we knew it would kind of be a bit of a slog fest, and it was. Neither team shot particularly well. The Lynx shot 41%. The Sun shot 41%. But the Sun difference here was Marina Mabrey. We talked about it at the time, Gary, that big acquisition from the Chicago Sky and how that could sort of be the thing that would put the Sun over the top this year. Because you talk
Hmm.
about teams that haven't won the final, you're right. There are 4 franchises that have been in 5 WNBA finals, okay? And the New
That's
York Liberty is
crazy.
one of them. Every one of those other franchises have won it at least 3 times, and the Liberty have never won it. But the Sun are also a team, along with the Atlanta Dream, to be one of the original teams that have never won a championship either. So the addition of Marina Mabrey, that scoring outburst, we saw her hit 3 after 3 after 3, not only in the first round against the Fever, but last night as well. I don't know who's stopping the Liberty at this point.
This doesn't surprise me out of this series because Connecticut, I mean, there was a lot of people who thought they should have been the ones playing in the WNBA finals last year. They've always been attempting these bites at the apple, right? So if there was a lower seeded team, I mean, it's 1 through 4 at this point, that it shouldn't be a surprise. They're the ones with sort of that history, that experience to upset the higher seed. I think, I mean, it's obviously the Sun, and we saw that yesterday. Which, I mean, is it a surprise to you anymore? I don't really think so.
Well, no, I mean, because they've got so much playoff experience. They've got Alyssa
Sure.
Thomas, who has more triple doubles. She almost got a triple double last night. She already has 4 in the postseason alone and leads the league in triple doubles in history. But I think the promising part for the Sun is not only did you slow down Nafisa Collier, something that no one's been able to do, although the Mercury don't have the best defense in the world, and we know that. She was averaging 40 points per game coming in to the series. They slowed her down, and they won a game that they didn't really get a big offensive contribution from DeWanna Bonner. So knowing that DeWanna is going to be able to tap back in, again, you talk about experience. She just has this team is incredibly experienced. Now, ultimately, that's led to heartache the last 5 years or so. They've made a pair of finals in the last 5 years, but they also recognize that their window's closing. So again, when we
Yes.
talk about like what's motivating, the motivation of revenge for the Sun, it's the motivation of being sort of the bridesmaid and never the bride, but also recognizing that their window's closing. Alyssa Thomas, DeWanna Bonner, and Bree Jones, they're all free agents after this year.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider, right? And like they sort of know that like it's make it or break it. This is it for them. And I also think that the 4 coaches that are remaining in the postseason are the 4 best coaches in the W. And so you've got great coaching mixed with, top talent. Originally I thought, okay, this will be the Aces and maybe the Lynx in the finals. And now I'm gonna be knee jerk as hell. And
Damn,
I'm gonna go
you're going Liberty Sun?
I'm gonna go Liberty Sun in the final. Super knee jerk.
Well,
I'm
here's
sure
the
that
thing.
because here's the thing: the Lynx are an incredibly complete team. Like
Yeah.
they're a great defensive team. They share the ball better than anybody else, and they can literally get a bucket from anyone on the court. They have a very, very deep bench. Like they are, I think, probably the most complete team. But again, you're talking about a Liberty team that has two former MVPs and Sabrina Ionescu on it. And now with Phoebish as well. And then Benijah Laney Hamilton, who offensively didn't have a big impact, but always defensively has a huge impact. So they're super deep. I don't know. I'm so knee jerk.
Listen,
You guys will remind me of this at some
is
point when it ends up being the Aces again and be like, why did you doubt yourself? But I think it's going to be the Liberty, man. I think they're going to finally give New York a basketball title for the first time since 1970.
And that's why Spike Lee was in Brooklyn, because he knows he's not getting to past the semifinal round at the Mecca, at the Madison Square Garden. So he's like, you know what? Let me pop over the bridge and see what they got going on over there. All right, let me see what the Liberty got going on over here, because maybe that's the first New York basketball team to bring the city a title in however long it's been. That being said, Elle, we only got to go back to our last episode to know why you're going with the Liberty v. the Sun, because you and the Big Three and the Countdown crew have to pop out on the road, and taking a quick little road trip to New York or in our home state here of Connecticut sounds a whole lot nicer than having to hop on a flight and pop out to Vegas, or hop on a flight and pop out to the Twin Cities. So for the sake of your travel, I hope it's the Liberty and the Sun, because then maybe we can slide as a podcast and go do something courtside. Yeah, I mean?
Well, I agree
That's
with
what I'm
you.
going with.
The good news is that no matter what, it won't be me going to Las Vegas, because it will be game 2 that I would be going to the finals.
Got it.
And so they're the lowest seed. They wouldn't host the first 2 games anyway. So, but you're right. There's potentially Minnesota in there, which is a plane ride away. And even though it's like one of the only cities that Hartford flies direct to, I would much prefer to drive, 45 minutes to Uncasville or 2 hours to New York. However, I just want good basketball. Whatever's going to be great basketball. I think visually, the Lynx and the Liberty, or the Lynx and the Aces, would be better, because again, when you're talking about a really great defensive team, the whole point is they muck it up, right? And it's kind of like nasty play, and it's not particularly sexy, if you will. It's kind of like watching the Spurs win back in the day, with Tim Duncan and Tony and them. But yes, selfishly would love to be able to just go up the street. By the way, you mentioned Spike Lee. My favorite thing on socials over the weekend was people being like, this is true equity. Spike Lee talking mad to Kelsey Plum. Like, we've arrived. True. This is real. Like, this is what equity looks like, ladies.
Listen, if you want fair treatment, if equality is the goal, you got to take it. You got to take the good with the bad. And Spike Lee probably checks both of those boxes. My question is, because if it's the Liberty, I'm with you, Liberty and Sun, because then the storylines run rampant, right? Like, who's the first one that are going to get this chip? And it's the Liberty, who have not won, and the Sun, they've been so close, their window's closing. Do one of those teams get a championship, Elle, before this reported expansion team? Portland's getting one, but the reported return of a Houston WNBA franchise. Tillman Fertitta got deep pockets, and he says he wants to bring the Comets in some form or fashion back to Houston.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people felt really disappointed by, first of all, the expansion is great. This year alone, we have 3 named expansion teams: Toronto, Golden State, they'll have the Valkyries, and then they just mentioned Portland is going to bring a team back. They had one for a couple of years in early 2000 to 2002, I believe, before they folded. But the folks that owned the Portland Timbers are like, no, we're going to put money and resources and invest in it. But I do think there was definitely a sense of disappointment that, like, the original dynastic team for the W was the Comets, and how does Houston not have a W team? And so I could definitely see that coming, but no, I think that either one of those teams wins a championship before any of those expansion teams do. Personally, I think we're super close. But again, I think it's going to be the Liberty this year, and I couldn't love it more for Ellie the Elephant, who, by the way, is like my spirit animal. I never thought I would identify with an elephant, but I love her so much, and she's holding it down for us Ellies. And yes, I'm going to adopt that name since everyone already calls me that anyway. So it's mine now.
That's pretty good. Elle, let me be the first to say I would never, ever associate Elle Duncan with an elephant. Okay,
Oh,
let me
thank you.
just say that you're like a gazelle.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, that's
swift,
wonderful.
well, like swift and cunning.
Oh,
You know, yeah,
cunning. I don't think that's a
cunning.
compliment.
It
Always
is.
on the run, of fear of being eaten by lions. I don't like where this is going. At the very
You didn't
least,
have to bring that.
elephants never forget. Just like I'll never forget the time that I was at a party on Saturday, super hype about the Bulldogs, and then the first quarter
Oh
happened, and
my
then the second
God.
quarter happened, and then I got drunk, and then I went home and I passed out on the couch because I had a few too many
Yep.
margaritas and I was sad.
Uh-huh.
And then Omar wakes me up at one point and he's like, "You guys are back in this game." And I was like, "Shut up. Don't talk to me. Don't jinx it. I'm going back to sleep." I go back to sleep. He wakes me up at about 12:15 a.m. And he's like, "Hey, so what's up with, you not wanting to watch the game?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "You guys are going to make the SEC championship." I said, "Did we win?" He was like, "No, but you did take a lead with 2 minutes left in the game. And then you promptly gave up a 75-yard touchdown on like the very next play." I was like,
It was sick.
"Great." And he was like, "But you also had an opportunity at the end again." And then Carson Beck threw up a duck. And I don't know how to feel about this, Gary. Like, I don't,
What do you mean? You feel
because here's the
amazing.
thing. Here's the thing. This is the team that, like, was literally going for history. We were going for 3 straight natties last year. I don't feel great
Why do you
about,
speak of it in the past tense?
I'm just saying,
I guess you didn't win
I
last year,
don't
yeah.
feel great about moral victories. Like, my expectation is not like, "Oh, they fought hard. Like, they battled back from a blowout." That was embarrassing. And I had said on First Take last week that I felt like a ton of pressure was on Kirby Smart, like, period. I felt like there was a lot of pressure on him because
Hmm.
there is no shame in losing to the greatest college coach of all time, a guy that used to work for you, that knows your tendencies, who
Five
is a
times.
defensive mastermind, like all of those things. But you can't lose to Kalen DeBoer. Like, you can't. You got to be
Okay.
able to beat Alabama, man. You got to. And he was unable to. Am I proud of the team that they fought back? Sure. Am I pissed at Mike Bobo, the offensive coordinator, that they waited until like the fourth quarter to have 300 yards of offense? Like, why aren't you opening this thing up a little earlier on? But it just,
They
I
couldn't.
think that what Georgia fans have to come to grips with is that despite sort of the legacy of Georgia, and even when you look at dynasties like Alabama, they didn't win a championship every single year, and this isn't a
Hmm.
championship team. Now, it's just not. It's not. Like, I don't think Carson Beck is a championship quarterback. We definitely don't have that typical run game that Georgia's known for. We
Hmm.
just don't. Trevor Etienne is not able to eat like he was. Our rush defense is not great, and we have some issues with the secondary. So this is not a championship caliber team. The good news is, in years past, losing to Alabama ended our season because it always happened in the
Hmm.
SEC championship. That's not the case this year, but I'm feeling very torn about, like, okay, yay, we fought back and we didn't just lay down like a bunch of, but God, we also were getting mollywopped by this team.
Which is why I feel exactly opposite of how you feel after that loss. First of all, it was a one possession game that ended it. Y'all were down 21-0 going into half. I mean, 21 points at a game. So you and objectively everybody else has said Georgia basically played as poorly as they possibly could have played, as poorly as we've seen Kirby Smart roll a team out in a hostile environment, as poorly as we've ever seen them play. And they still almost won and beat an Alabama team who I think a lot of people would say played the best football we've seen them play this season.
Oh, for
So
sure.
you're saying Georgia playing the worst game we've seen them play in recent history, going up against an Alabama team who was playing the best we've seen them play this season, and Georgia almost won. So on the flip side of that, I'd feel pretty damn confident. Paul Feinbaum said that was the best game he's ever seen played, period, in the SEC. He's been around for like
Wow.
100 years. That's insane. I
Yeah,
mean, we
that's
had the
wild.
kick six. We had Neyland Stadium, Bama losing to Tennessee. He said Saturday was the best game he's ever seen played. Carson Beck, first interception of the year, then proceeded to throw a handful more. Ryan Williams is unconscious at 17 years old, and still Georgia found a way to almost win. If it wasn't for some Superman true freshman who's got video game moves making Georgia defenders tackle themselves. I don't know.
I would tend to
Georgia's a playoff
disagree.
team.
Personally, I think the greatest game I've ever seen was when we beat Alabama in the national championship, but I digress. I mean, leave it up to Paul. He knows a lot more about SEC football than I do. He certainly watched a lot more of it. I will say that, yes, I went back and watched it ultimately because I was like, well, let me see like what they did. But again, it falling into a hole that big, not
Yeah.
great in particular because of just the poor decision making. And I had been begging Carson Beck, like I had said, I would rather Carson Beck had not thrown an interception this year. But I was taking a bit of a Bruce Arians, like no risk it, no biscuit approach. I would rather him throw an interception because he's trying to air it out than continue to just throw to the line of scrimmage. And now I didn't exactly want that interception to come to end the game, but at the very least, they were trying to take some chances and they were trying to air the ball out. Like it's this playbook, they've been holding back. He's been holding back. I thought Desmond Howard said something really smart last week. He's like, last year, Lad McConkey and Brock Bowers made Carson Beck better, right? And you would expect as such. They're both very talented and now have NFL careers. He was like, it's time for Carson Beck to make his receivers better. And
Sure.
I didn't see that in the first half of that game. And we started to see more of it in the second half of the game. I hope that it's something that they can build on because Gary, like this means that going down to Texas in a couple of weeks is a must-win game for them. Like they have to, because they still have to go on the road at Ole Miss, on the road at Texas, and they still have to play Tennessee, who,
Tennessee.
as much as people want to talk about their quarterback and talk about their offense, their defense is fantastic. Their defense is very good. So there is no room for error. Georgia can still make the postseason with a couple of losses, maybe even 3. But because there's no more divisions, like they probably won't make the SEC championship game now. So they won't get a bye and they'll have to play that first week. But again, like that's putting the cart before the horse, considering you still have a really, really tough gauntlet. I think that the voters will, certainly understand that and take that into consideration when they're thinking about putting someone in. But you can't have any room for error now. Like Texas is a
Yeah.
must-win
There's
situation for
plenty.
them. So hopefully it's something to build on.
There's plenty of runway left for Georgia to make a statement. I mean, they lost to Bama on the road by a possession, not even. So I honestly don't. I don't think it hurts them, especially with 3 more massive ranked matchups. Can't lose them all.
Okay, so let's go to the NFL because I want to give out some awards because I want to walk you through.
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll start with the awards and I'll walk you through my experience of watching the Broncos. For those of you that don't know, even though I'm from Atlanta, I am a Broncos fan, tried and true. Have
Victory
been my whole
Monday.
life. We love the Broncos, but let's give out a few awards. And I will start right there with the Broncos for my first award. The first award for it's unacceptable to lose to this team goes to the Broncos because every time someone loses to them, that's what they say at the press conference. They're like, it is unacceptable to lose to this team. Tampa Bay said the same thing, and now the Jets as well. The Broncos are one of those teams the last few years where, like, if you lose to them, it's like your bottom. You know how everybody has like when people talk about like, whether they're fighting like alcoholism or substance abuse or whatever, and they're like, whatever their bottom was, like, this is how you
What
knew
a comparison.
this was rock bottom. Everyone literally uses the Broncos as their rock bottom litmus test. Even last year, when the Chiefs lost to the Broncos, the Chiefs were like, this is the rock bottom for us. Like, this is the worst thing that could have happened. We are slumming it. We are bad. And that's exactly what the Jets looked like. And so I'm doing WNBA countdown. We have like the 6-pack of monitors, as you know, and the football games are sort of on in the distance. And, I'm trying to just get this game on air. We have countdown from 2:30 to 3, and then I've got to pay attention and all that stuff. So anyway, I kind of very quickly in my peripheral see this Broncos Jets game. And I see that the Jets are winning 9-7. And I was like, okay, well, it's respectable. Broncos defense, legit. Broncos defense hasn't been the problem since the Super Bowl. They're nasty, right? And so then I see us get the field goal and I'm like, okay, we go up. And then I see that series where Aaron Rodgers, they hold the Jets on 4th down and they turn it over on downs. And there's a minute and maybe 40 left. I didn't see any of the other situations, how many timeouts there were, any of those things. So I'm like, I lose my mind. We stuff them on 4th down. We sack them. I'm going nuts, Gary. I'm like mother effing Aaron Rodgers because I don't like that guy at all. I'm running around the studio. Dre and Shanae are like crazy. I'm just losing my I call my mom on FaceTime. And I was
Damn,
like,
you hit up Tony?
yo, I called Tony.
Premature
I
celebration?
called her. I was like, let's fucking go, Tony. She was like, I know, go Falcons. I was like, what?
Oh my God.
She was
Oh
like,
my
you
God.
talking about the
Big
Falcons
dub.
game? I
Hey,
was
big
like,
dub.
no, the Broncos. I was like, we just stuffed Aaron Rodgers on 4th down and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, we did. She's like, I have it, taped in the other room because she's real superstitious. And she's like, when
Yeah.
I watch, they look like, so I'm not watching. I'll rewatch it if we win. I was like, no, we just stuffed Aaron Rodgers. She was like, how much time is left? I was like, oh, just like a minute 40. She was like, how many timeouts are there? I was like, well, the Jets have 2 timeouts. She's like, girl, bye. Hung up on me, right? As if she
You
knew it was
deserved it.
coming. Sure
You should
enough,
know
what do
better
we
than
do?
that.
Broncos get the ball 3 and out. And then they're like, you know what? Let's attempt a 56-yarder instead of hunting the ball with a team that only had no timeouts at this point and making them drive the field and get into field goal range. Let's just attempt a really long field goal kick, even though we're already up. And what happens? We miss it. And I was like, oh, here we go. Here we go. Here go the Broncos snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
I saw that tweet.
You saw it.
But guess what, Elle?
What happened, Gary?
They made you proud. They allowed you to stand on that
That's not what
business.
they did. That again, when we talk about moral victories, this isn't a moral victory. It was an actual one. But bro, how do you process your court? How do you feel good about a team where your quarterback was 7 for 15 for -7 yards in the first half? That is not even almost possible. In fact, the Broncos had 4 players with at least 1 catch and 0 or negative receiving yards. It's the most since 1933. We are setting history as the most inept offense of all time. How do I feel good about that?
All I'm saying is, all I'm hearing is that the Broncos are continuing to invent ways to win football games. They're trailblazers, okay? Elle, that's how you have to look at this. They have strung together now 2 big wins, but seriously, winning on the road against Tampa, and Tampa looked damn good yesterday against the Eagles. If the Broncos can continue with the defense they have and the best cornerback in the NFL and Pat Surtain shutting an entire half of the field down, they'll figure out a quarterback situation. Bo Nix will learn how to throw a forward pass for positive yardage.
Willie?
Girl, you should be ecstatic about this.
Okay.
What are the other awards?
So. Yeah, if you say so. Here are the other awards. And I'm going to have you guess what franchise you think this is.
Okay. Perfect.
The award for most likely to forget you exist as a team goes to
exist as a team. Damn. That's hurtful. The Jags?
Yay!
Oh, is it the Jags? Okay. Okay. I mean, they're winless right now, so maybe they forgot that they are a football team and they're supposed to win games because they came into the season with expectations after paying their quarterback now $50 million plus to win games. But guess what? They don't have a plan B because their plan B is named Mac Jones at quarterback, so they better figure this ish out with the quickness.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence has lost 9 straight starts now. It's the longest losing streak of his career. It's tied for the 3rd longest losing streak by a quarterback that was taken 1st overall in the last 20 years. It's all bad in Jacksonville. And the thing is that, like, I actually think that their owner, Shad Khan, I think this is where his patience is going to hurt him. I think he's probably too patient. This is embarrassing.
We're a quarter of the way through the season, and I think it's time and appropriate for coaches to be put on the hot seat with Peterson down there in Jacksonville. Whatever's going on in New York with Aaron Rodgers and Rob Saleh has to get figured out. Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, there's clearly something there. So as we reach the quarter-ish point of the season, the 17 games throws everything off, now's going to be the time you start questioning, hey, we just gave Trevor Lawrence over $200 million to be our franchise guy, and he hasn't won us a game yet.
I know. It sucks too, because when you think about that quarterback class, like I remember, and you remember too, we were both Sports Center anchors, like how big we made that quarterback class. Like this is going to be the quarterback class we look back on years from now and go, look at all these Hall of Famers that have come out. This class included Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, and Justin Fields. Justin Fields playing the best out of everyone on this list right now. I mean, the Steelers ended up losing yesterday for the first time, but it certainly wasn't because of him, right? Like he did his absolute best.
Oh, damn. Shout out Joe Flacco. All right, 2 more awards.
Yeah, I got a
I'm
couple of
1
more
for 1.
awards for you, and you
All
mentioned
right.
it. The award for quarterback most likely to give it away, the Loose Award, goes to Jalen
Oh,
Hurts, who has an
yeah, you don't
interception
want to be
in every
loosey-goosey.
single game this season. And sometimes we do these like big topics on the shows, and it's like, is have we seen Jalen Hurts play the best football that he's ever going to play, right? He was in a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. They were 10-1 to start out last year. He was in the conversation for NFL MVP. And I wanted to feel like that was a little bit knee-jerk. And now I'm starting to feel like it's the truth. Like now I'm starting to wonder what is wrong with Jalen Hurts and his inability to protect the football or to make good decisions. He is seemingly getting worse in that metric, which is something you're supposed to get better at with time.
Unlike so many quarterbacks who gripe about this, Philadelphia has only ever given him more things to capitalize in this window on this offense. He has one of the best running backs in the league in Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. There are no lack of weapons for Jalen Hurts, and it's crazy because they made it to a Super Bowl with Nick Sirianni, but now all of a sudden, I don't know. It seems weird. 27 turnovers since the start of last season. That leads the NFL. That's insane. 9 straight games with a turnover. What the hell is it? Because it was this same Jalen Hurts with this same coaching staff, and some would argue even better weapons now, operating at a less standard than it was a couple of years ago. Maybe you point to the offensive line and no, I don't think you can point to the offensive line. Something's up. Something's up, Elle.
Yeah, because yes, exactly. I mean, the offensive line is typically one of the strong suits for the Eagles. I think their defense is letting them down a bit, right? Like that's something that they've been able to depend on. They're letting them down, which I hate to hear because it's just filled with former Bulldogs. And so this whole,
That's true.
Georgia Eagles is not going particularly well. It's like they tripled and quadrupled down on going and getting these Georgia defenders that haven't exactly lived up to the hype at this point. But I still feel like the good news for Philadelphia is that we all know Philadelphia is truly a Phillies town. And right now, that's all the eggs that they're putting in the basket right now is in baseball. They're like, it's still baseball season. No one cares about the NFL.
All right, sick. Yeah, what
And
are they going to do in 30 days?
correct. Exactly.
Or less.
And
if the
finally,
Phillies,
Gary, the
take an early
award
exit.
for Small Victories Award goes to
Oh,
Joe Burrow and the Bengals because,
mhm.
yeah, they beat the Panthers, which is like,
Yeah,
expected.
yeah. It's
But
the Panthers.
Burrow wasn't sacked in a game for the first time since week 3 of the 2021 season. This man's always on his back.
3 seasons?
Maybe he should get the Loose Award because he's always on his back. But he did not get sacked. I still feel like the Bengals defense is a huge problem. You gave up a ton of points to the Panthers. No disrespect to the Red Rifle. But they finally win a game. So at the very least, they this week don't have to talk about an 0-4 start to the season.
The Bengals won the breakup because Andy Dalton had an opportunity, okay, to take his ex and be like, look what you did. Look what you lost. Bengals finally got off the schneid. Only one team in the history of the NFL has made it to the playoffs after starting 0-4, and it was the 1992 San Diego Chargers.
Oh, wow.
Listen, man, Cincinnati did not want to be in that conversation. Now, I'm going to pretend like I didn't hear what you said about Joe Burrow doing his best work on his back or something along those lines.
I hate you so much.
You said it, Elle. You said it.
I stand by it. And the
Okay.
I want to give myself props awards goes to me because I said on First Take on Friday, listen, Gary, we're wrong all the time. I'm especially wrong all the time. And everyone on social wants to remind you of it. But everybody's really quiet when you're right. I predicted on Friday that the Ravens would do particularly well. I also said that Josh Allen was due for one of those mushroom trip games because the thing I used to love about Josh Allen was he truly was a mushroom trip type of quarterback. It's like you pop one, it could go really well, it could go really wrong. You just don't know what kind of trip you're going to get. And he's been very consistent the last couple of years. He always has those sort of Josh Allen vintage moments, but he's been perfect this year. And that told me that there was going to be a game and that it was going to be coming soon, that he was going to sort of look like old vintage Josh Allen, where he's just making these ridiculous decisions and he's pressing and he's doing too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people felt like because the Ravens have been so abysmal on defense as they are working out a new coordinator and all of that, that he would continue to eat. And I predicted that the Ravens would do well because I thought the Ravens would
Mm-hmm.
be able to run all over the Bills and that time of possession would be key. And I was right. Derrick Henry almost hits the
First play of the
200
game. Come
century
on.
mark, right? Lamar Jackson gets a pair of touchdowns. He was running all over them. And Josh Allen reverted back to vintage Josh Allen. And the Ravens
That's a little
absolutely
harsh.
rolled. And what I love is because even after that first week when they lost to the Chiefs and everyone was chicken littling this thing, and especially after the second week and chicken littling this thing, when they lost to the Raiders, I was like, they need to figure out what their offensive identity is. And I felt like this game would tell them a lot about themselves. Stop
Yeah.
trying to force the passing game. Like they tried to do that against the Raiders, and Max Crosby just ate them alive.
Mm-hmm.
Lean into the fact that you can run the ball better than anybody else, that you've got two incredible tools between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, that you've got a great offensive line that can block. We saw that, especially on display last night. And like now we're going from Chicken Little to the Ravens just proved they're the best team in the NFL. Oh my God, the knee-jerk reactions, right? There's still some
Rex
things they
Ryan
need to
said it
sort
this
out, but
morning.
they
That's
looked
crazy.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, they're super scary. Derrick Henry, 6'3", 250, just barreling at you. Just get out of the way.
Yeah.
I just want to really quickly follow up on the mushroom trip thing. It's good or it's bad.
I hear.
Elle, I've only ever had good experiences with mushrooms because I dice up the little baby Bellas and put them in scrambled eggs. So I
There he
don't
is.
know what else you're talking about. I don't know if you do speak from
Oh
experience.
yeah,
but
no, I meant
let me
like the mushrooms at the Pizza Hut buffet bar that you put on your salad. Like sometimes they're good and they're
Mm,
fresh. Sometimes they're not. It just
ah,
really depends.
got it. I just stick with the baby Bellas.
I'm a portobello type of girl.
You got the money for it.
All right, remember to tell your friends about the podcast, rate, review, subscribe, do all the good stuff. We will see you on Thursday after game 2s of the WNBA postseason. And drop a note in the comment. Tell us how great we
Come
are.
on.
That's not what you're going to do. I know you're not going to do that.
No, please. Or share your experiences with mushrooms, any variety.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Tell us which ones are
Yeah.
the best ones,
Mm-hmm.
but keep
The
it
ones you
clean.
can buy in the store.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly.